Hey everybody, welcome back to Cooking with the Clevengers. I am so glad that you are here with us today. You get me, and Mike will be here in a little bit to kind of assist. But this is one of my tried and true recipes that I absolutely love to make for my family. I have a big family, and we do a lot of get-togethers, and when that happens, I'm one of the home cooks, and they love my spaghetti and meatballs. So that's what we're gonna do for you today. All right, here's what you are going to need to have a successful night of spaghetti and meatballs. Sauce isn't completely up to you. You can spend your day, simmering and stewing and making your own from scratch. That's awesome, that is your prerogative. You can go get a can or a jar. Me, if I have the time, absolutely love to make my own sauce. Today, I'm using Rouse because it's yummy, delicious, doesn't have a lot of added sugar or weird ingredients. With that said, here's what you need for the star of the show, the meatballs, because this is really what you're after. You can use this for spaghetti, you can make it for meatball subs. You can do whatever you would like with this recipe, sky's the limit. My personal preference is some 80-20 ground beef and some ground pork. Not sausage, pork. So that's that. Then the next thing that I like to add is about a 1/4 cup of fresh parmesan. Shove that all on the top. 2 eggs. I usually do about an egg per pound. This is a little bit more than 2 pounds, but not enough to deserve a 1/3 egg. Next, what I have here is an assortment of yumminess. We have a little bit over a tablespoon of ground garlic. We have some Italian seasoning, a tablespoon. We have a 1/2 tablespoon of onion powder. Ellie does not like onions, but she likes the flavor of them, so I use the powder. Then we have just a little bit of salt, not a lot because the Parmesan has a lot of salt already in it. About a teaspoon of salt, and then a teaspoon of black ground pepper. Sprinkle that all up in there. And then here is kind of my secret little recipe for this, or my secret weapon. I love almond flour in this as opposed to breadcrumbs. I have a gluten intolerance and I can't really handle it. So I put a 1/2 cup of almond flour. Then I top that just to add a little bit more moisture in it with a 1/3 cup of milk or cream. Now this is completely optional. It's just something I like to do. People will tell me that's not a meatball, it's a meatloaf. Well, too bad.
Hey guys, welcome back. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our marinara sauce and we're gonna get it into our slow cooker. We like using the slow cooker for this because it is going to allow this to sit. The cleanup is easy because we use these slow cooker bags that you can get at any grocery store, any department store, or any thing like Walmart, Target. They have them. We love them because it makes the cleanup easy. So we're gonna go ahead. We've got 2 jars of our sauce because we don't make this just for one meal. We make sure that this is gonna feed 2 or 3 meals down the line. So we're making the sauce, Ray's making the meatballs, and we're gonna save it for meatball sandwiches later this week, or just meatballs in general by themselves, to be honest. With us staying and working from home, this is gonna be a quick lunch. Warm them up back in the slow cooker or in the microwave or on the stovetop, and you've got a nice meatball sandwich. Meatball sandwiches are amazing. But let's get back to what we're gonna do today. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm just gonna add our marinara sauce, get a nice layer going, and I'm gonna turn this on high heat to start with. So I wanna try to get it cooking and get it up to temp as quick as possible, because once Ray gets the meatballs made, we're actually going to go ahead and cook some of the meatballs in the sauce in a slow cooking method. Now, as you can see, I didn't get all the sauce out of that. So one of the tricks that my mom taught me is to take a little bit of water, swish it around in the jar, and then pour it in there. You're not even gonna notice that little bitty amount of water that's in the sauce. So let's go ahead and turn this on high. And we're gonna let that start coming up to temperature while Ray makes the meatballs.
All right, everyone, now it is time to form the meatballs. It's very important that when you're doing this that you don't roll them too tightly, because otherwise it's not gonna have that nice kind of airy meatiness, yumminess to it, unctuous. So I like to do a little bit bigger than a golf ball, just real simple, real easy like this. Thing to remember is that because I am using 80/20 and ground pork, these will cook down a little bit when that fat renders. And that's also part of the deliciousness of these meatballs. There's two different cooking methods that I like to do. When I have the time, I love to just put them raw in the crock pot with the marinara sauce and just let them cook gradually over time. That is so good because the sauce and the flavor of the meat just really marries together. But when it's like a school night and Ellie has soccer, I'm throwing these bad boys in the oven. 325 at, I would say 20 minutes, and they should be perfect. And then you can just throw them in the sauce and you'll be good to go.
Hey guys, little secret here, so you got to be very quiet about this right now, but I'm interrupting this video right in the middle. Ray doesn't know that this is coming, but guys, this week is very special to us. This is her birthday week. And it's not just any birthday, this is a milestone birthday. And with all of this being stuck at home, not being able to go out and celebrate, we had to cancel a trip to the hot springs here locally in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. I was looking forward to sitting in a pool of nice hot water that was coming natural from the earth, but it didn't happen. So what we're gonna do today, guys, is we are going to make this meal special for Ray because it is her birthday meal. Now on Tuesday, when her actually birthday is the 21st, you know what we're gonna do is we are going to, she doesn't know it yet, but I am going to make her this amazing steak dinner at home. She has fallen in love with chimichurri sauce and steak and baked potatoes, and I'm gonna do it up just like you would find at any restaurant steakhouse. I'm actually going tomorrow, hopefully going to buy a brand new grill so that we can grill these steaks. Otherwise, I'm going to be throwing these into a cast iron skillet. We're going to make this an excellent and one of the best birthdays that she's had, even though that we're not able to go out and do anything as a family. So if you don't mind, hey, down there in the comment section, give Ray a happy birthday message. Let her know how much you appreciate her and having her in your life. I know it's cheesy, but whatever we can do to make this day special for her is what we're gonna do. Okay, let's get back to the show.
All right, so what I am doing next is I am just going to place the meatballs in the sauce. You want to kind of push them down in, but you don't want to stack the meatballs on top of each other because it just won't be good. You'll have 500 meatballs all stuck together, and that's not good eats.
Now Ray, how long are these gonna cook for?
These are gonna cook for about 2 to 3 hours on high. And then we can, if you need to do it all day long, just put them in the morning, put it on low, and just let these babies go. No mixing, no stirring, no babysitting. There we go.
Open it, of course, cut it, and toast it for 5 minutes at 400 degrees.
Okay, so now as Ellie told you, we've had the bread in the oven at 400 degrees for about 5 minutes, just to get a little bit of a pre-toast on it. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our garlic butter compound. Now for this garlic butter compound, let me tell you exactly what we have here. All right, so this garlic butter compound is just half a stick of butter and then a tablespoon or a teaspoon of actual garlic powder. Now you wanna let that butter sit out on the counter for a couple hours to come up to room temperature, so it's easier to incorporate that garlic butter in or that garlic powder into it. If you don't have time to do that, microwave it for about 20 seconds. As long as it's not from the freezer, the butter isn't, it should be soft enough to where you can start mixing it. So we're gonna go ahead and get our garlic bread ready for the oven, and then we gotta pick our choice of noodle for today. Okay, so now let's talk about the type of noodle that you're gonna use for your spaghetti and meatballs. Well, we're pretty basic. We stick to the namesake of this meal. So we're gonna use just a 1-pound box of spaghetti noodles. We like the dry noodles. I haven't ever tried making my own pasta. I am so wanting to, but we're gonna use the dry noodles for today. It works just as well. Now, you heard Ray tell you earlier that there is a gluten issue in our family, or with her at least. So for her, what we do is we take a spaghetti squash and we're gonna microwave the spaghetti squash, and it's going to be ready for her about the same time that it takes our noodles to cook. So let's go ahead and let's prep our spaghetti squash, and we'll tell you how that works as we go through. Now, in order to prep the spaghetti squash, what we need to do is we first need to half it and then get the seeds out of it. So I have a really sharp knife, and it is very important that when you're doing this, you have a sharp knife. It's going to help you, and hopefully it's going to help make sure that you don't cut yourself. So what I try to do is I try to find the flat side of the spaghetti squash. Most of them have a flat side so that it doesn't move too much when you set it on the table. Now from there, I'm going to take my knife and go straight down the middle and just bring it through the back. Now these spaghetti squashes are really hard to cut through sometimes. So you want to make sure, again, you've got a large enough knife and that knife is sharp enough to handle the job. So we've got it there. I'm going to turn it over, and now I'm going to go straight down and cut through the stalk. We open it up, and this is what we want to see inside our spaghetti squash. We're going to go ahead, we're going to remove all of these seeds right here, and the easiest way to do that is with the inside of a spoon. So let me go ahead and let me grab a spoon, get these seeds out, and we'll talk about preparation next. All right, so we've got our spoon. We're just going to take our spoon and we're going to dig in right here, and you can see exactly where that pit is, and we're just going to go ahead and scrape all the way around that pit, because what that's going to do is it's going to loosen up those squash fibers, and that's really what gives it that spaghetti squash look. So you see, as it should, most of it just comes right out, and we just scrape a little bit more. And you can see it's already starting to create these little fibers here that we're wanting, so it looks like it's spaghetti. And now we set this aside, and we can repeat on this side to get that guts, as most people call them, just like when you're carving a pumpkin. You got to make sure that you get the seeds and all those pumpkin guts out of there. Now, if you're really big into gardening or anything, you can take these seeds and dry them, and then you'll be able to plant your own spaghetti squash if you wanted to. But for today, and for the fact that we still live in an apartment, we're just going to go ahead, scoop them out, and toss them in the garbage. Now, for the preparation of the spaghetti squash, it's only going to take about 7 to 9 minutes to cook, because we're going to do the majority of this inside the microwave. So what we have here is I'm going to take just a little bit of water, and I want to pour that water into a microwave safe dish. Now, it's important that you use a microwave safe dish. So we've got our our glass dish here, and I'm just going to put enough water in to coat the bottom of the glass dish. Then I'm going to take olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and I am just going to dribble a small amount on our spaghetti squash, just on one of the halves, because the other half we're going to save and use later. I'm going to use my hands here, and I'm just going to rub that in really nicely, get that into the crevices there, just enough to coat the top portion of the spaghetti squash. and it goes right down in the middle of our microwave safe dish. Now I'm just gonna wipe my hands off here, and we're gonna add a couple of other ingredients. We have just a few sprinkles of granulated garlic powder, some black pepper that we're going to sprinkle on liberally, because Ray really likes black pepper on her spaghetti squash. And then we're just gonna hit it with a couple of ounces of, or not ounces, but just a couple of sprinkles of salt. This is ready to go into the microwave for about 8 minutes. Now you wanna check it and make sure that it's nice and tender as you go through, but doing it cut side up like this, when everybody else does it cut side down, this gives us the ability to not make those noodles as squishy or as watery. So, into the microwave, 7 minutes. All right, now we got our spaghetti squash in the microwave for 7 minutes. Our noodles are next, and they're both gonna get done about the same time, so you wanna put them in ideally around the same time. So I've just put the spaghetti squash in the microwave, but I haven't started it yet. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to take my spaghetti noodles and add them to a gallon of boiling salted water. Let's go ahead and get that done now. Now, once we have our spaghetti in the pot of boiling water, you're going to notice that it stops boiling for a couple of seconds while that water comes back up to temp. You can always go ahead and just give that water an extra burst of power there by turning it up just a little bit. We come up here, we've got our microwave, 700, start for the spaghetti squash, and we're now going to ask our assistant to set a timer for 8 minutes. While we've got our pasta in the water, our spaghetti squash in the microwave, let's take a look and see what these meatballs are doing in the slow cooker. So I'm just gonna bring you guys right down here with me. And you see that our meatballs are completely cooked through. They have that nice tomato sauce flavor running throughout because they've been cooking inside the sauce. Guys, I wish I could share this with you all, but I am so excited. We are about 10 minutes away from being able to eat this. So we'll come back and check on you when everything's done, and we'll show you the plating technique that we use for our homemade spaghetti and meatballs. So we've got our spaghetti squash out of the microwave, and now we need to get it prepared for our plating. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a fork. We're gonna take a fork and we're gonna scrape from the outside in, and then that's where you're going to see why they call this a spaghetti squash. Look at that as Ellie's knocking stuff all over in the kitchen. Look at that. We've got it here, got it nice, and you'll see that it has these strands that are very similar to spaghetti. So that is what Ray is going to be using for her homemade spaghetti and meatballs, while Ellie and I are going to be using those. So we got our pasta out of the water, still a little bit al dente, but we've strained it, and now we are ready to plate this magic meal. So there you have it, guys. Homemade spaghetti and meatballs a la Ray Clevenger with spaghetti squash for any of those who might have a gluten sensitivity. I know there's a few of you that watch our channel. But as always, we appreciate you joining us today. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, give us a like or a thumbs up, and let us know, what do you want to see us make in the future? We are looking forward to bringing you guys lots more over the upcoming weeks. We love you, and we'll see you next week on Cooking with the Clevengers. Bye, guys.